All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of A Valued Conversation, Gen X Spoken Word. I know it's been a couple of days or so, maybe a week since we did a live, but I thought it was time that we did so because things are just getting out of hand with all of the damn lies that I'm seeing. So, because of the lies that are being told, I feel that there's a need to go ahead once more and address what we're seeing, what we're hearing. All right. So before we get into everything, let's go ahead and lean back for a minute, listen to a 90s cut. This is Heavy D and the Boys. If you can't see what I can see, which is something that we need to pay attention to. All right. Don't let your don't let your vision get blurred. Fair use. All right, again, fair use, fair use. Go ahead and put it in the background. All right, so as I said, there's a lot of lying that is going on right about now. So that needs to be addressed because I see a lot of people equivocating or talking around what's happening. By the way, so anyone who is watching this right now in the replay gang, as always, I appreciate you for taking the time to check it out after the fact. As we know, I've got watch hours that I've got to get out of the way. So whether or not I have people with me right now or people who show up in the chat a little bit later, or maybe even not at all, I'm looking for the replay game to go ahead and carry the line, or we'll look for people who'll just catch up later on down the road. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out front right about now and let it stay and run. So yes, our government is trying to legitimize white supremacy, or should I say they've gone through the act already of rolling it out. Over the last 9 months, we have seen again the country, or should I say specifically, the government attempt to legitimize white supremacy with the protection of law enforcement in hand, along with the guiding hand of the Supreme Court standing by. And of course, you've got the White House at the top here as the North Star. Make no mistake, folks, the moment that we saw the president fly Charlie Kirk's body to Phoenix on Air Force Two, the minute that flags were lowered half staff for this man who was a white supremacist, and most importantly, the moment we watched the vice president of the United States broadcast Charlie Kirk's show directly from the White House, we knew white supremacy had found a home in the Oval Office. We're watching the National Guard be deployed in areas where they're not needed, even to the point to where as the the governors have said, we don't need them, but Trump is still looking to send them there anyway. That is the type of behavior that a dictator engages in. Matter of fact, if you take a look at the title over here, this is something that he's getting comparisons towards once more, being compared to Hitler. To which I say, you act like Hitler, you get compared to Hitler. Again, folks, I'm not making anything up. This is nothing that you can't see for yourselves or nothing that a majority of you have not already observed. I released a quick TikTok video earlier today addressing lies, and the person that I address once more is the now deceased Charlie Kirk. Again, what happened to him is inexcusable. There's no excuse to be made for what happened to him. That was violence. But at the same time, as I've said before, there's no excuse for the words that he used in his life that people still want to continue on saying that we'll carry the torch for you, Charlie. Absolutely not. Now, the statement that I made is what I'll make here as well on my video about all the lying. Charlie Kirk was a lying ass liar. Nothing else needs to be said. No more words need to be put into that. I've already demonstrated the lies this man told when he disparaged blacks, Hispanics, Asians, across the board. But no one takes it serious. No one will agree to it if you are from his camp and you support his ideology. Well, I don't see any proof, but yet you've lined everything out front to where it can be seen. The only people who say that they don't see the proof will be the people who follow the same ideology that Charlie Kirk stood for. The same thing that the White House is now putting on a pedestal. So I've had my 7-8 minutes of ranting here, or at least 3 or 4. Let's go ahead and get into this. So what I want to do first and foremost is just address what I said about Charlie Kirk. Again, Charlie Kirk was a lying ass liar. Specifically, his statement of, oh, well, there's always these packs of black people roving around waiting to attack white people. That's the truth. No, it is not the truth. Matter of fact, I can think of numerous occasions where there's been a pack of white people traveling around to attack blacks. But I'm going to give you 2 examples, and they should be more than enough. Let's go ahead and kill the music in the background and get down to this. So in 2017, there was in Shelbyville, Tennessee, a White Lives Matter rally. Yes, 2017. Remember, this is when Donald Trump had first gotten into office, and we had seen a spike in race-related attacks. No one could figure out at first what was going on, but until a majority of people started saying, "Hey, this has got something to do with Donald Trump's rhetoric, the speech that he's putting out." We're also going to get into that today. But nonetheless, what I want you to focus on here is the statement that Charlie Kirk made of blacks in groups and in packs roving around attacking white people. No, there's nothing out here that shows anything consistently happening like that. But what I can do is consistently show you that it's the opposite, where you have groups and scores of these white supremacists, these skinheads, whoever else, traveling around in groups and attacking blacks. Fair use, fair use. So what you saw here were about 30 white supremacists who came from Shelbyville, showed up in Brentwood to supposedly have dinner. But what they actually did was show up, happened to be walking around town, and they saw this interracial couple inside of the restaurant having dinner. Now, of course, they could have gone anyplace else, they could have sat anyplace else, but guess where they sat down? They sat down next to the interracial couple. And it says right here what got the whole thing sparked. The 30-year-old woman later told police that one of the group members asked her to guess. And when I say guess, there's something here in the early paragraph, but they wanted him to guess who they were. And the girl said, "Oh, you're White Lives Matter." And from there on, that's when everything took place. So these white supremacists sat down purposely next to this interracial couple so they could harass them. And eventually they got into a fight. One of the white men punched the girl. Now, of course, I'm looking at this. I'm trying to figure out why is she going outside to address them. But nonetheless, I won't get into that because there's more than enough speculation that could go around. But the fact here is that what you've seen right here was a group of 30 white supremacists who tracked down, found an interracial couple. It could have been just two black people sitting by themselves, but nonetheless, I'm sure the black man and the white woman is what really got their attention. Made their way into the restaurant, sat down next to them so they can openly harass them and then go to confrontation. Now, a lot of us have said this, and I'll say it again. You will never see too many white supremacists by themselves starting fights. There's always going to be a group. But that's just something I wanted to open the show up with and just show you folks how Charlie Kirk is a lying ass liar. Now, more so, let me give you some more detail, some backgrounds. So, again, there is not a pack of blacks roaming around looking to attack whites. However, what Charlie Kirk failed to mention is that for a period of 100 years, there were whites who traveled around in packs attacking blacks, either outside of their home, inside of their homes, going inside of their homes and taking them outside, beating them, whipping them, in some cases, maiming, if you were female, raping, and then shooting blacks, along with burning crosses in their front yards. The people who did this freely without any type of law really pressing down on them, although we had the Ku Klux Klan Act that was put in place. I want to say that was during President Grant's time in office. Not that he was very effective at it, but nonetheless, the Ku Klux Klan ran rampant for 100 years, attacking blacks openly. Now, that is your proof that Charlie Kirk was lying and was also being deceptive. Roving groups of whites in sheets, sometimes not even wearing sheets, sometimes just in the back of a pickup truck, walking on the streets, attacking blacks. Now, that is the truth. No need to go over this anymore. I think I've made my point in that respect. I will say for a final time, Charlie Kirk was a lying ass liar. I'll probably unveil another one of his lies as well, just to give it some context, because that's something that clearly was lacking when he spoke. All right, so moving forward, as I said, the title of today's show, Act Like Hitler, Get Compared to Hitler, which is the case here with Donald Trump. Now, what got me started on this? I had a classmate from my high school days who sent this over to me. He sent a clip of Bill Maher getting on the audience about the fact that people were comparing Trump to Hitler. As I said before, if you act like Hitler, you get compared to Hitler. Let's take a look here and see what Bill had to say. Fair use.
This shit has to stop too. We went out to dinner. I wouldn't have done that. In Washington, D.C., okay, and people started to gather around him and they were chanting, "You're the Hitler of our time." Okay, first of all, assholes, he's not Hitler. Okay, an insult to everybody in the Holocaust to begin with. Second of all, calling somebody Hitler makes it a lot easier to justify things like assassination. Let's put a shitload of that away, shall we? This shit.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that I disagree with Bill. Now, granted, I wouldn't be out in the street gathering around Donald Trump and calling him Hitler, Hitler, like people were doing. But this whole thing from Bill's perspective of let's just put this away because that's where assassinations and things start from. Now, isn't it funny that Bill did not take the time to talk about all of the statements that Donald Trump has made to incite violence, to where he has belittled entire countries, individuals, uh, calling them rapists, murderers, calling countries shithole countries. Everything that he can do to incite some type of uh, fire under the ideologies of white supremacy, under our separatists, under Christian nationalists. You think of anyone who supports that ideology, and Donald Trump has gone out of his way to make sure that the words he speaks will incite them to take action, which leads to violence. Fight like hell, or you won't have a country. So what I thought I would go ahead and do, which I've done here in the last couple of videos, is that I'm going to put all the proof up front. So if anyone wants to join later from the chat and they have comments such as, well, you're lying, John Henry, I'm going to make sure that you see the proof. And again, it doesn't matter if I have anyone here with me or not. This is still something I've got to do, which is to get my hours out of the way. But also, I want to make sure that it's known that the replay game will come through a little bit later, check things out. But I also want to do it live just in the event that we get some of these special people who show up here talking about Charlie Kirk wasn't a liar, show me the lie. We're not here to prove anything to them. More or less, what we're going to do is substantiate the facts that exist. All right, keep that in mind. You don't have to prove anything to someone who's not going to agree under any circumstance. You just substantiate the truth as it is and allow their perspective to be seen for what it is. Pure jackassery. So this is another excellent job by the Lincoln Project. This video is about 3 years ago. So I want you to look at this and keep in mind what was being shown 3 years ago as compared to what is happening now. Lincoln Project is always on point. Fair use.
It's an old story. At first, they seem ridiculous. The big egos, the bad ideas. Some of them seem almost comical. Not here, the people say. Yet men like these find their following because they know how to use hate and fear. Fear of foreigners, immigrants, and minorities. Of Jews, Muslims, Christians. They dismiss the experts, demonize the press, promise they alone can deliver better lives and brighter futures. If they could only be rid of the obstacles to that power. Eventually, enough people buy it. They hand the fate of their nations over to madmen. But then suddenly, it's not so funny. The military deploys on the streets to protect the leader. Names appear on enemy lists. Opposition voices are silenced or imprisoned. The leader promises the right bloodlines will survive, and the wrong ones will be purged. It's an old story, one that could never happen here. The very idea is ridiculous, almost comical. There's no one dividing us, no one telling us who to hate, who to put in cages. No one demonizing the press, dismissing the experts. No would-be savior claiming he alone can fix our problems, if only the obstacles to power are removed. No one singling out the other, telling us what should become of them. No enemy lists, no threats of imprisonment. No one lashing out when their ego is threatened, demanding absolute loyalty and using the military to control the streets. No, it can't happen. Not here. We know too well how it begins, and it's always been up to us how it ends.
So, like I said, I want you to take in account everything that you just saw. That was literally a depiction of what Donald Trump is doing right now, but he was saying 3 years ago. Hell, some of this he was saying in the first administration he had. He told you exactly what it was he was here to do and what he was going to do. He could not seize the power he needed in his first term. Excuse me. But he is now doing everything that he could not do in his first term because he has now got people who are going to be his support structure. There are no guardrails that are left. Anyone who could have stopped this crazy train was removed before it even left the station. There is no telling how long this government shutdown is going to go on because there is no one there, even a Mitch McConnell type, who orchestrated this madness that we're dealing with right now by stealing Obama's Supreme Court pick. There's no one here to stop this as of right now. Everybody that Donald Trump has put in power is loyal to him. Hence why he purged the military. Hence why he is going through purging institutions, colleges, for example. Hence why he was attacking law firms. Think about this: DEI. It's become a pejorative. Some people want to say didn't earn it, or should I say a lot of people want to say didn't earn it. If I can step back for a moment, Charlie Kirk, once again, didn't earn it. It being an education. Couldn't even finish junior college, but yet had the audacity to disparage established and esteemed Black women, who all four, actually, amongst the ones that he disparaged, had a minimum of a master's degree. But again, this is where we are right now, folks. This is where we are. And Donald Trump's rhetoric has been the guiding force behind all this. Let's continue. Again, I'm just putting all the proof up front. Fair use. Fair use.
You know, when they let, I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be, and then we built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then we're going to build more. You know, when they let,
honestly, listening to that, and people will still try and say, well, Donald Trump's not a racist, but every time he talks about people coming into the country, poisoning the blood, as you heard, he said they're poisoning the blood of the country. There's more to come. All right, there's more to come. He talks about Africa, he talks about Asia, he talks about South America, and I've just sat quiet on this for quite a long time. Never once has Donald Trump said anything about people with any type of illness, sickness, criminality coming from Germany, coming from the United Kingdom, coming from Spain, coming from Italy, coming from Switzerland. You never hear any of his rhetoric talking about immigrants coming from those countries. The immigrants that he always talks about either have dark skin or olive colored skin, meaning that you're either black, you're brown, you're Muslim, you are Asian. No, these are the only people that he mentions when he talks about immigrants. He has nothing to say about those countries whose immigrants are not dark skinned. Let's keep this rolling. Oh, there's plenty to show right here, folks. As always, fair use.
Nobody has any idea where these people are coming from. And we know they come from prisons. We know they come from mental institutions, insane asylums. We know they're terrorists. Nobody has ever seen anything like we're witnessing right now. It is a very sad thing for our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country. It's so bad. And people are coming in with disease. People are coming in with every possible thing that you can have.
Now, again, I'm not making anything up. I'm sure if I were joined by anyone inside the chat, or maybe by some of you who see this later, you can clearly see that Donald Trump is a racist and a bigot, and he is race baiting right now with xenophobia. He is clearly putting out the line, as he's done since he came into the White House, even before that, we supposedly have a problem with immigrants coming into this country who are committing crimes. The biggest amount of criminality we saw were the folks who attacked the Capitol on 6 January 2021, which he let go. Bona fide criminality. But yet he still wants to get people to believe that criminals are coming into the country. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that out of, let's say, 100 people coming into the country, even those who came in legally under the temporary protected status, which the Trump administration removed. I mean, what does that say for people coming in legally and you still take their status and deport them back out of the states? What's the point? But nonetheless, out of 100 people coming in, I wouldn't be surprised if there was somebody there with criminal intentions. I'm not going to act that that would not be the case. But still, the hordes that he claims that are coming in, no, there's nothing that can substantiate that other than the statistics that he wants to create. And then, if you remember, a few months ago, he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics because he didn't like what was coming out in job supports. Even a month later, it was still a sad story. But who do you fire? You've already fired the person who's in charge of that, and you had the same outcome. Shit. I want you to think about this right now, folks. At this moment, the Trump administration is racing, trying to find ways to change as many laws for voting as possible because Project 2025 was an absolute bar of shit. It was absolute shit. And in order to try and turn things around, they are redistricting, they're changing maps in the middle of the census year to ensure some way that they can hold on to power or gain seats to add to the power that they already have. This whole nonsense about a shutdown, the Republicans have the White House, the House, and Senate, but yet they're going to blame the Democrats who are not in power for a shutdown that they have full control over if they were willing to not be reckless. And that's not the case here. But off my horse, let's continue on. Now, what's the bet here that Donald Trump is again going to say something about migrants poisoning the blood of the country, right? Fair use, fair.
It's crazy what's going on. They're ruining our country. And it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that. And I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way. No, they're coming from all over the world, people all over the world. We have no idea. They could be healthy. They could be very unhealthy. They could bring in disease that's going to catch on in our country, but they do bring in crime.
And so again, Donald Trump has just gone forward making the same lie. But the thing is, he keeps saying it, he keeps saying it, and keeps saying it. And it's been stated, I believe Hitler was one to have said it also. I need to clarify, but I believe it was Hitler, is that you tell a lie enough, people soon believe it. If that's not accurate, I'll make sure that I correct the statement. But we've all heard this statement mentioned somewhere throughout our lives if we've been in company that is known to be uh, of scholarly quality, put it that way. If you repeat a lie enough, it becomes true. No, it does not. It there's no way that you would think continually telling a lie that it will become true. A lie does not become true. Wrong does not become right. Good does not become evil just because it's accepted by the masses. And that's a quote from Booker T. Washington. You know what? I'm sorry. I just can't stop. I mean, the facts write themselves. All I can do is show folks where they are and how you can get to them. As I've said before, fair use. Fair use.
We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. I'll use the word animal because that's what they are. You got to get these people back where they came from. You have no choice. You're going to lose your culture. You're going to lose your country. Does anybody believe in genes? You guys believe in genetics?
A murderer, I believe this. It's in their genes. And we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now.
It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
You can always trust the Daily Show writers to put something together, right? Again, where's the lie? Consistently across the board, Donald Trump has lied. He told 30,000 lies as a minimum during his first presidency. But yet people still keep listening to him because of the fact that he is entertaining. Oh, he talks like one of us. So if you hear anyone saying he talks like one of us, that means that he's talking like someone who reads, writes, and comprehends at a fourth grade level. Simplistic words that are used to incite people who can't really, I guess, comprehend higher than what they're hearing right now. There's a statement I recall that you would hear from people who are in a position of educating, something where I'm headed to right now, or I've done before, but will do so once I finish my doctorates. And the statement is that you always want to ensure that you teach at the level of your audience. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is ignorant and back-assed inside the Republican Party. But if you take a look at the majority of folks that are doing the supporting at the lower level of the echelons, you have a lot of people who seem to be mentally impacted in their thought process, unable to maintain a sense of decorum, so to speak. Whereas as soon as they get angry, it's straight to violence. Those are the people that Donald Trump seems to employ the best to take his not so hidden meanings and expect to incite action from them. Oh, there's more. All All right, so from Midas Touch News Network, I don't really go to them too much, but I do like to make sure that if I find something that is of value, I'll go ahead and share this. So once again, we're staying on the theme here of Donald Trump making the claim that immigration is poisoning the blood of the country. Smith, what's going on, man? Yeah, I'm on your side of the globe right about now. I don't know if you were following here, but I'm over in Germany at the moment. So I figured I'd go ahead and get a show in before I had to get back to study. So the topic for tonight, man, see up here is act like Hitler, get compared to Hitler. So what I'm doing right now is what we've been doing for the last few shows that you and a few of the other folks who had a chance to swing by here. I'm putting all the proof up front. So therefore, if there's any statement anybody wants to make about, oh, John's lying, hey, go back and take a look for yourself. As I've said, no one here is going to spend time trying to convince anyone that Donald Trump is a racist, that Charlie Kirk is a racist. No one's going to spend time doing that. Yes, it is. If you don't recall, I used to live here some years ago. Matter of fact, I grew up over in Europe back in the late 80s. And then I spent a majority of my time between Europe and also Far East. But ideally, Europe is where I call home if I ever come through. So, anyhow, what we're going to do, folks, we're going to go ahead and look at yet another video of Donald Trump talking about immigration poisoning the blood of America. Fair use.
Illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. They're coming from prisons, from mental institutions, from all over the world. Without borders and fair elections, you don't have a country. Make America great again. We must win in 2024, or we will not have a nation. Thank you.
Ooh. Yeah, so Smith, I know you just joined here, but if you were to go back and take a hot second or so, I'm just going to have a little bit of commentary right now. But I've gone through one, two, three, four, five, about five videos of this same rhetoric from Donald Trump. Nothing's changed. It's the same cadence, a little bit of extra lie here and there, but for the most part, this is Donald Trump once again making the same lie that they're poisoning the blood of the country. Oh, I've never read anything of Hitler's. I don't know anything about Mein Kampf. Okay, he may not tell the truth. I mean, obviously, we know he's lying. His words are damn near word for word what Hitler was saying. Now, at one point in time, there was a statement that Donald Trump, I guess someone who's writing a book about him, had made the statement, or someone had written that he kept Mein Kampf next to his bed. Now, his wife said it wasn't Mein Kampf, but it was actually a book of Hitler's speeches. So, based upon that, we know that Donald Trump will end up saying the exact same thing that Hitler said, but then act as, oh, I don't know anything about what he said. But his words are damn near spot on. All right, so shall we go ahead and continue? So I'm not sure, Smith, if you're still here. If you recall, where I had what I put together was a list that here it is. Why the hell would you keep a book like that next to your bed? You got to remember now, and I thought about this myself, but he he respects um, dictators. He respects the power that they hold. So let me go ahead and deviate for a second right now. So if anybody were to ask the question, what type of person they thought Donald Trump was when he was growing up, he was either one of two that I can think of. Number one, he was the kid who sat at the end of the table because he wasn't allowed to be around the cool kids, perhaps. Oh, he is definitely that. Yes, he is definitely that. Let me turn on the show comments on the stage, give it a second to come up. But yes, he is definitely an egomaniac. So as I was saying, think about the guy who is not part of the cool kids, who's always sitting on the outside. He knows who the cool kids are, but he's not allowed to be a part of it. Or if he is a part of it, he still sits off to the side because if he opens his mouth to say something, he may get a laugh here or there. But then if the joke or whatever he's saying doesn't land, then he becomes the person that they jump on with their nonsense. Now, option B, he could also have been that kid who watched from a distance all the folks who were cool and always thought to himself, you guys will pay for not letting me be a part of your group if I ever get into a position of power or authority, which is what we're seeing. Now, here's a third possibility. What if Donald Trump was supposedly led to believe he was that cool kid? Just making statements, doing things, people, laughing because after all, his father was really rich. That's right. Trump's dad was extremely rich. And him being the son of a rich guy, who knows? Maybe folks just laughed and teeheed in his presence because of the fact, knowing Donald Trump is a person to know. But in the end, what do we see sometimes about these people who sit in authority who think that everyone respects them? They're laughing behind his back. They're talking about him. They're making statements to the press or anyone else without him being around outside of earshot. We know that is happening inside the Republican Party. We've seen this, but yet when he shows up in the room, everybody wants to snap up to attention. Which brings me to this latest stunt, whereas he had 800 generals show up just to be, I don't want to say bored, but just to be bloviated to by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War. Now I'm sitting here looking at a portion of the video, and then they're panning the crowd, taking a look at those generals sitting there. A small loan of $1 million. Yes. Who gets a small loan, right? And that's how Trump got his start. But let's remember also, for anyone watching in the replay game or who just happens to be taking a look at this, what Smith is referring to right now is Donald Trump getting a loan from his father to help him get started, a small loan of $1 million. But nonetheless, be that as it may, when Donald Trump was bankrupt from whatever he got from a small loan or whatever he started, remember, his father had billions that he could go back to, or millions or multi-millions that he can go back to and start fresh again. Most of us, we'll say 99.999% of us, would not have that type of opportunity. Well, going forward, as I was saying, so you're a general sitting in this room watching Pete Hegseth strut around on stage like Foghorn Leghorn. Now, can you imagine the frustration when Pete said, well, if you don't like what you're hearing, you can get up and walk out that door, but understand it'll affect your career. Okay, that's just an open threat. But Hegseth knows he can do that now because there are no guardrails, as I said before. There are no watchdogs. There's no one in the military who's going to stand up for this or stand up against what's happening because all those folks were purged. CQ Brown, Admiral Franchetti, go across the board, everyone from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and the chiefs of staffs of each of those services, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which was General C.Q. Brown, purged and put out because it was probably recognized that these people were not going to go for that and it would not have been tolerated. But again, imagine being one of those generals sitting in this room. You spent 35 plus years of your life defending this country, whether it be inside of the U.S. or external, defending this country against everything that this man up on the stage named Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, stands for. The white supremacy, the extremism, the violence, everything that is about that ideology is what Hegseth comes from and courts. But now you have an individual of that caliber who is in charge of the Department of Defense. What do you think those generals were thinking sitting there watching this? We'll probably have to do a show on that. What say you, Smith? Should we go ahead and shine a light on that too? Give me a second here. Let me know what you think. All right. So getting back to it, Midas Touch did an article. They called it Nazi Code Speak. Civil rights group condemns Trump's poisoning the blood attack. Now, as you've seen here, again, whether you might be a Smith or one of the other folks who just joined here who's just watching from the clouds, or even in the replay game, if you go back and just watch how I front load the show. Okay. Sure, man. Let's do it. All right. Give me a minute here. I have to put something together here so we can take a look at that aspect. So what I've done, folks, is I've front loaded this video to whereas if anyone were to show up and say, "Oh, John Henry is lying again," hmm all you need to do is go to the front, and all the proof you need is there. Now, keep in mind, just because the proof is there does not mean that someone's going to look at it and accept it. Because if you are from the ideology that exists that supports the likes of Charlie Kirk, the likes of Donald Trump, JD Vance, and the ideologies that they support, you will simply say, I haven't seen the proof. So, again, we are not going to spend our time trying to convince an ideology supporting person of white supremacy, extremism, of Christian nationalism that the information is true. No, we're going to substantiate the obvious. That's all we can do. Their attitude will be reflected against what we know to be true. Hey, man, I'm not going to sit here and lie to anybody. There's no need to. There's too many facts that we can present that people know about or will know about once we're done. So, again, Nazi code speak. Stop your hate against our people. Civil rights group LULAC, the League of Latin United Citizens, has condemned Trump's anti migrant attack in which he said migrants are poisoning the blood of our country, a statement that echoed Hitler's writings against migrants and Jewish people. In a disturbing interview with the National Post, Trump employed rhetoric reminiscent of Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime, making sweeping generalizations about migrants and resorting to inflammatory language. Trump's comments during the interview are a cause for serious concern. Now, I already played this earlier, but for anyone who's joining right now, I'm going to go ahead and run this again. So, Smith, since Alicia is not here tonight, man, or today, I need you to go ahead and make sure that the audio is being heard, if you could, please. All right, fair use, fair use. So let me try this again. Fair use.
Right now, it is a very sad thing for our country. People are coming in with disease. People are coming in with every possible thing that you can have.
All right, so that was on pause, I guess, too long. So that's all right. We'll just go back to the video here that I've got already keyed up. Like I said, I played it earlier, but we can go ahead and show that from here. All right, stand by while I try and get this straight. Where are you? Where are you? Here we go. So again, I played this earlier, but for those who weren't around for it, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and hear it. So again, fair use, fair use. It helps if you share the video, right?
Nobody has any idea where these people are coming from.
Fair
And
use.
we know they come from prisons. We know they come from mental institutions, insane asylums. We know they're terrorists. Nobody has ever seen anything like we're witnessing right now. It is a very sad thing for our country. It's poisoning the blood of our country. It's so bad, and people are coming in with disease. People are coming in with every possible thing that you can have.
I apologize if there was an echo there. I forgot to mute my mic, but still, I'm pretty sure that you heard what was being said by Donald Trump. They're coming in with disease. They're criminals. They're coming from mental institutions. No, no, they are not. But still, these are the lies that he continually tells that anyone who does not pay attention will sit here and accept as truth. I'll give you something even crazier, folks. Do you realize that there are still a majority of Americans who've never heard of Charlie Kirk? They've never heard of Turning Point USA, which is more or less now a recruiting ground for people going into right wing politics. They've never heard of this. So when you see Trump say this, a lot of folks are, oh, wow, I can't believe he said that. I just love him. I just love what he's saying. I mean, that's what we need. Somebody who's not from the same pile as everybody else to shake things up. But here's the problem. When people like to call Trump a disruptor, they fail to understand that disruption is not a good thing. Now, it depends on where you place the word disruption. If you're talking about technology, then yes, disruption might be good because we're looking at um, technology that is going to advance where we are right now, that's going to make lives better, that's going to improve lives, make things healthier for people, make it better. Now, that's an aspect that I would say disruption can be seen as being positive. But when you're talking politics, you're talking people, you're talking lives, you're talking money, you're talking health, disruption is not what you're looking for. And that's where we have again the mischaracterization of the word disruption. Trump has become a major disruption in life. And that is not acceptable, but people will still try to make it so. They will try and make it seem as if disruption or disruptive, which is what we see in government, is the equivalent of disruptive inside of technology or commerce. No, folks, that's not how this works. So going back to looking at the Reich stuff, and this is from an article that was done inside the Guardian. There's no audio needed here. Let's go ahead and just turn that off. So the date of this article is the 3rd of June, 2024. The Reich stuff. What does Trump really have in common with Hitler? Now, if you've been watching this video up until now, you know damn well what Trump has in common with Hitler. Being performative, saying the most outlandish things to spark people's interests. And of course, the lying. And that's just a fragment of what Trump actually has in common with Hitler. Comparisons between the ex-president and the 20th century Nazi leader are controversial, but a new book says they resemble each other as political performance artists. Now, when Donald Trump shared a video that dreamed of a unified Reich if he wins the US presidential election and took nearly a full day to remove it, the most shocking thing was how unshocking it was because people had become accustomed to this. They've normalized Donald Trump's racism and bigotry to be, meh, that's just who he is. You got to let Trump be Trump. No, no, God damn it. You don't have to let Trump be Trump because people have let him be who he is. That's why we are in the situation in the United States that we are. And we're seeing repercussions and reverberations across the world. You know what? F it. We're seeing the effects, the ripples for the most part. And I believe the word is reverberations. Ugh, took forever to get that out, right? But be that as it may, we are seeing the consequences of letting Trump be Trump come back and affect us. Trump has reportedly said before that Adolf Hitler did some things, some good things, echoed the Nazi dictator by calling his political opponents vermin and saying immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country, and responded to a white supremacist march in Charlottesville by claiming that they were very fine people on both sides. So anyone would be foolish to get upset to say that Donald Trump is not like Hitler. Oh, yeah, he has done everything by the book as Hitler and other dictators have done. There is no denying that or getting away from. Now, here's an analogy that came with that. The Hitler Trump analogy is controversial. Some of Trump's critics, including Biden's campaign, of course, this is again back when the presidential campaign was running through last summer, argue that Trump's incendiary rhetoric and authoritarian behavior justify the comparison, the political website observed recently. Meanwhile, Trump's defenders and even some of his more historically minded critics argue that the comparison is ahistorical, that he's not a true fascist. Now, that may be the case. Trump may not be a true fascist, but he is still exacerbating folks and pushing them towards actions that are detrimental to the functioning of the country with his rhetoric. Hitler was an anti Semite madman who pushed the world into World War II and also was responsible for the death of 6 million Jews. That is what Hitler was. Trump may not be to that level of just genocidal. No, by no means. But there are still the comparisons of the behaviors that we've seen outside of that that they both contrast in, to which we've demonstrated over the course of the last 50 something minutes. So here's a statement that I was just talking about. Funny enough, we tend to see Hitler as a genocidal mass murderer, which of course he was, but not so much as a populist. I thought looking at it through the perspective of Trump could help us wrap our heads around the idea as to why so many people actually supported Hitler and vice versa, meaning why they support Trump. So the best way to look at this is that when you have extremist statements um, that are striking to people, but at the same time, wow, this guy actually said that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I could actually get into this. When you have people who can be swayed by that, then you've got people who are rife to commit certain acts in the name of that person speaking that way. And again, how do I sum that up or bring this back into perspective? 6 January 2021. It was poisoning the blood of our country. It was, oh, they've stolen our election. It was, oh, you got to fight like hell. You're not going to have a country left. It was all of that said by Donald Trump that motivated and pushed people into committing that act. And you know what, Smith, now that I think about it, I think I stated that we still need to go back and do an assessment of Jan 6, but look at it from the perspective that it was missed, which was far right extremist behavior or participants who were also Christian nationalists. That was the underlying factor of what happened on January 6, 2021. You had extremists who had been communicating with each other who took action. And what we saw was January 6th as the result. So again, folks, here is the name of the article. So you can look that up. And by the way, Alicia, you're not watching right about now, but I'll go ahead and go ahead and drop some thanks to you. She has gone ahead and done some time stamping. So because of that, I need to go back to the videos and put the timestamp information in there, as I said I would, to include the links. So if you can, folks, by all means, share your support, hit that subscribe button. If you like it, let me know. Share it if you do, and subscribe. This is what you're looking for. So continuing on. So let me go ahead and play you that video of Donald Trump. And again, this is back during the campaign season. So what this video was doing was Donald Trump celebrating after his win. Now he was hoping to win. Well, we know he did win, but before he did win, this is what he was pushing on his Truth Social site. Fair use, fair use. I'm not going to hit accept cookies on Truth Social site. They don't need my information.
What happens after Donald Trump wins? What's next for America? The economy booms. American energy is unleashed and an end to crushing taxes. The border is closed and the largest deportation in history is underway. No more wars as we focus on home. Law and order is restored. The American dream is back and the best is yet to come. Make America great again.
Holy shit. Now, of course, this comes on the heels of immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. They're sending their worst. They're sending rapists. They're sending murderers. They're poisoning us. We've got to get the bad genes. Does anyone believe in genes? We've got bad genes. That we got to get all this stuff, and then you end it with MAGA. The xenophobia is out of control. Wow. But here's the sad part about that. Now, I'm kind of laughing at the ignorance of all of this, but here's something that should send a chill down the spine of folks if you haven't given this consideration. Now, just what if? What if you have people out here who actually believe this shit? So let's go ahead and adjust our tone for a moment. I want you to see this. A third of Americans agree with Trump that immigrants poison the blood of the US. Now, this comes from almost a year ago, October 2024. Founder of polling firm that conducted survey says that language is straight out of Mein Kampf. It's Nazi rhetoric. And again, this is Donald Trump saying, "Oh, I've never read Mein Kampf." But when have we been in a position to actually believe him? Well, you can't believe him if he says, "Mr. President, a Mr. President story. Mr. President, oh, you're doing such a great job." That's what they tell me. They tell me I'm doing a great job. They tell me all the time, Mr. President, we love what you're doing at the border. And I say, yes, yes. Stop the nonsense. And again, this story was a year ago. A new poll has revealed that more than one-third of Americans agree with Donald Trump's warning that undocumented immigrants in the U.S. are poisoning the blood of America. A significant 34% of the respondents to the poll, conducted by the Brookings Institution and Public Religion Research Institute, PRI, agreed with the statement previously made on the election campaign trail by the former U.S. president and Republican Party nominee for the White House, Donald Trump. Can you believe this shit? You've got people who are out here actually believing this, what they said it is, Nazi rhetoric. I give a damn about what people try and say when they make the statement, America is a Christian nation. No, we are not. There's nothing in the Bill of Rights. There's nothing in the Constitution. There's nothing anywhere written that says that America is a Christian nation. When you hear that statement, understand you are listening to a Christian nationalist, a white supremacist, or one of these far right extremists. It is written, and what they're saying is not written there. One-third of Americans, which is 34%, say that immigrants entering the country illegally today are poisoning the blood of our country, including 6 in 10 Republicans, which is 61%, as stated here, 30% of independents, and only 13% of Democrats. A summary of the annual poll stated, which surveyed more than 5,000 individuals from 16 August to 4 September, and they're talking about in the year 2024. So I'm not going to go down any further than that because we're seeing what is being replicated through Donald Trump's speech, through the xenophobia, the racism, the bigotry. He said it enough times. Now, this was just us sitting here in this enclosed environment. We're sitting here watching what Donald Trump has been saying over the course of damn near 10 years. And where are we right now? Donald Trump is deporting people out of the United States. Now, it's bad enough that people not being able to return to their country of origin if they're being put out. They're being sent to places that they've never been before. You've got someone from El Salvador who has been sent to Africa. Now, notice they've lost that story. You had people who were sent to Africa and they were put in jails, even though they were not criminals, but still because they were deported and called criminals when they were received in these countries where Donald Trump and the Trump administration have made deals, they've been treated as criminals. That's where we have gotten right about now. So when I hear people talk about DEI again, I mentioned this earlier. I was on a trip talking about Charlie Kirk. DEI. He is an example of didn't earn it, meaning that he did not earn any degree. That is what did not earn it is. But yet he has been given prominence, or he was allowed to partake in prominence. DEI. I say this a lot, and I'm going to continue to say it. We are now in the age of Trump DEI: division, extortion, and intimidation. And if anyone were to ask me, how do I prove it? Simply put, it's real easy. We look at what's happening with the colleges and the universities, where Trump now has this grifting plan going to whereas if you sign a contract that says you will not teach DEI like statements, that you will acknowledge a certain level of gender, there's a whole a list of it. I don't have it with me right about now. But if you sign that contract, he will then give you access to the funds that you're already supposed to have that have already been allocated. Donald Trump has turned the government into a protection racket. I believe Gavin Newsom was saying to those colleges inside of, or the universities inside of California, who Trump made this offer to just recently, if any of you sign that, you will have five. I can't remember if it's a funding cut or whatnot, but before I say too much, let me just back up. I'll just simply say that uh, Governor Newsom in California said he will not tolerate Donald Trump attempting to influence the curriculum in any universities in the state that he's the governor of. But again, this has become a protection racket. We've seen Donald Trump squeeze law firms, to whereas there's a majority that have signed on that are giving away almost $200 or $300 million in pro bono work. On top of that, paying Donald Trump. What have we turned into here? We've seen the end of cancer research for children. We've seen the end of dementia research, Alzheimer's research. We've seen aid that has already been funded and should have been going forward that Donald Trump's administration pulled back. And although it's not being reported on, it has already been stated that there have been deaths as a result of this aid money not getting there to allow in some countries food, shelter, medication. There have been deaths that have been recorded. That'll probably have to be another show that we may have to get into. So understand right now, we are in a point in time where we have seen our government, and I said this at the beginning, I'll say it again, where we've seen the government bow a knee to white supremacy. And we've seen direct examples. I'll say it one more time as well. Charlie Kirk's body being flown on Air Force One. The American flag being lowered to half staff for Charlie Kirk. And of course, the Vice President of the United States broadcasting Charlie Kirk's show out of the White House. But yet, you talk to folks from that side of the aisle, well, I don't see any proof that Donald Trump or Charlie Kirk was a racist. I say again, do not spend your time trying to have a conversation with someone who's going to have a disingenuous conversation with disingenuous feedback. Don't worry about it. The proof is already out there. Their behavior gauged against the proof is what's going to be their downfall. And lastly, let me go ahead and bring this piece back up here. Now, recall I mentioned earlier where a statement had been made about Donald Trump having Mein Kampf next to his bed. Well, no, in actuality, again, what his first wife said, I want to say it was Ivana Trump. Well, I can't recall her first name right now, but Trump's first wife said, oh, no, it was not a copy of Mein Kampf. It was a copy of Hitler's speeches. What's the difference? It's still Nazi rhetoric, right? Hitler's speeches published with Donald Trump as cover illustration. So there was was this back in 2016? Yes. So back in 2016, there was a book that was done that was covering Hitler's speeches, but they made sure to put Donald Trump's picture as part of the publication. Presidential candidate chosen to adorn reissue of the Nazi dictator's oratory in response to report that Trump keeps a copy by his bed. So we'll just read a quick bit of this, but I just want you to hear this here. Publisher Ishii Press International has illustrated the back cover of Hitler's collected speeches, My New Order, Volume 1, and the front cover of Volume 2 with photographs of the presidential candidate. And again, this is back in 2016. It declares in the book's blurb that there are clear similarities between the speeches of Trump and the speeches of Hitler, citing everything from repetition to name calling and a lack of logical justification for views held. They never admit they have made a mistake, nor do they ever take anything back, Ishii Press writes on both volumes. To any criticism, they respond by insults and name calling. Sound familiar? They use a low form of language with simple sentences even a person with the lowest level of education or no education at all can understand. And that pretty much goes back to the point that I've been making this entire hour and 13 minutes about Donald Trump's behavior, his actions, his statements. And the reason why I titled today's show, Act Like Hitler, Get Compared to Hitler. So there's no reason that anyone should be upset or surprised that if Donald Trump has been made uh, in comparison to Hitler, I've shown you why. That's the best thing I can say. I have shown you why. So Smith, if you're still there for the little bit that you've seen, put a 1 in the chat if you feel that I've been lying. All right. And put a 2 in the chat if you feel that I have justified the statements as to why people consider Trump to be like Hitler. Now, for those of you who are watching out in the clouds or for the replay gang, feel free to do the exact same thing if you happen to see this in replay, a 1 or a 2. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks, Smith. Now, even though it's just Smith here right about now, Smith has been through a good amount of my information here. Uh, Luckily enough, he was able to listen, and although he may have been here for jokes the very first time he came through, he sees the seriousness of what I'm talking about. He's seeing the reflection of what's happening in the world around us, and he knows that when I take the time to present this information, I've gone back and I've researched. I've found information, but and many times I've shown you guys how to find the information, how to verify what it is that you're looking for. So when he puts this 2 down here saying that, yes, I'm telling the truth, he's actually following along. And I'm hoping, just like everybody else who I've shown how to verify the information that you find, you're doing the exact same thing. We are living in the age of where disinformation and misinformation have now taken root. What I may do in the next show, I may take a step back and go over Yuri Bezmenov's statements on how to undermine the ideology of a nation, because we are at this point right now where we've seen the ideology of America completely burn to the ground. And we're watching what's coming out of the ashes, and that's chaos and destruction. So here's what we're going to do. Before we get out of here, I'm going to play a video that a lot of folks may have missed, or all three of you that are here. But I want you to see this and give me your thoughts here, all right? Give me your thoughts on what you see about this video. This again was by the Lincoln Project. I played this at the beginning, but I think this is a fair outro to play for folks to understand the seriousness of where we are right now. Fair use, fair use.
It's an old story. At first, they seem ridiculous. The big egos, the bad ideas. Some of them seem almost comical. Not here, the people say. Yet men like these find their following because they know how to use hate and fear. Fear of foreigners, immigrants, and minorities. Of Jews, Muslims, Christians. They dismiss the experts, demonize the press, promise they alone can deliver better lives and brighter futures. If they could only be rid of the obstacles to that power. Eventually, enough people buy it. They hand the fate of their nations over to madmen. But then suddenly, it's not so funny. The military deploys on the streets to protect the leader. Names appear on enemy lists. Opposition voices are silenced or imprisoned. The leader promises the right bloodlines will survive, and the wrong ones will be purged. It's an old story, one that could never happen here. The very idea is ridiculous, almost comical. There's no one dividing us, no one telling us who to hate, who to put in cages, no one demonizing the press, dismissing the experts, no would-be savior claiming he alone can fix our problems if only the obstacles to power are removed. No one singling out the other, telling us what should become of them. No enemy lists, no threats of imprisonment. No one lashing out when their ego is threatened, demanding absolute loyalty and using the military to control the streets. No, it can't happen. Not here. We know too well how it begins, and it's always been up to us how it ends.
This video is the epitome of everything I've been talking about for over 10 years, at least since the summer of 2015. Maybe not in this format of being a YouTube content creator, but in forums and chat rooms for the most part. But although it sounded facetious at the end, no, there's no one with lists. No, there's no one deploying the military. Yes, they're being facetious, but in a way to make you understand that we never believed that this would happen, but we're seeing it all right now. Extremists are in power in the United States government right now, attempting to deflect everyone away from the reality that we see. So rest assured, whether it's just Smith and myself right now, or it's Top Cat, whether it's going to be Chicago Rilla or anybody else who understands what we're doing right now. The truth is always someplace that you're going to be able to find if you look for it. And I'm letting everybody know right now, this is the spot. Look at me as being the fact taker, the accountability tree shaker, but never the disruptive and lying content creator. I'm not here for that, folks. Understand this. This is where the truth gets told. And if I don't have it, I will go out and find it. Facts don't choose sides. Keep that in mind. All right, folks. So that's pretty much it for the day. So what can I say other than thanks for the folks who showed up, the all one person, which is Agent Smith. But I'm sure we'll get some comments, hopefully, inside of the Replay Gang space here. And I need to probably put a post out also. So thanks for watching, even those of you in the clouds who may not have commented. I appreciate you again, Smith, for showing up. So if you like it, let me know. Share it if you do. And subscribe if this is what you're looking for. There's always going to be more to come. Welcome to the spot where we get it done. John Henry out.